Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to AMA's Open Forum Lecture, PANCHA SUTRA for Managers by Professor P.K. Balakrishnan. On behalf of AMA, we welcome Professor P.K. Balakrishnan to this evening lecture.
Thank you, Ram.
Welcome, sir. Professor Balakrishnan is a leading management consultant and business coach based in Mumbai. He has over 3 decades of rich experience as business leader with global companies like GE, Accenture, etc. He has handled as management consultant with several Fortune 500 companies. The address by the speaker for this day would be for 40-45 minutes, followed by question and answer session. Participants can post their questions in chat box. The faculty will choose, and as a moderator, will also read the question for the faculty. Over to Professor Balakrishnan, please.
Thank you for the gracious introduction, Ram.
Welcome, welcome.
Good evening, friends. I am indeed grateful to be with you this evening session to deliver an invitational talk on PANCHA SUTRA for managers. Thank you so much for the trustees and the executive director of the AMA and the Center for Indian Wisdom for Management to have invited me for this. I am really excited to be in this magnificent venue, which is called Internet Webinar, which is truly the new normal of the day after the outbreak of the horrific and dangerous pandemic. The Center for Indian Wisdom and Management and the AMA has really chosen an appropriate topic this afternoon, for these are the extremely challenging days, and I therefore would make an earnest attempt to highlight the 5 strategic intuition every manager ought to have, ought to develop as a professional to have effectiveness in doing right things and efficiency in doing things rightly. These are encapsulated as PANCHA SUTRA. I am sure most managers are aware of these attributes, but I'm making an endeavor to place them in the right perspective so that they can appreciate and perhaps consider in the scheme of upgrading their skill. The next 25 minutes, I'm going to unfold the things which you know, but I'm going to add a different perspective and different narratives to the things which you already know, and I call it a sutra, which is a strategic approach. There are sutras within you and beyond you. The sutras can be controlled within you, and there are sutras which requires not only just your help to implement it, but you also need an external help. So these sutras are divided by me as within you and beyond you. And the single most important sutra that you can control, every manager should need to have, is the clear vision. The vision cannot be explained, but I'm going to give you so many narratives and then figure it out and then leave it to you. What is the vision that you require to make things happen for yourself and the organization? Whatever you do, wherever you do, however you do, things can be divided into 2, like right and left, bright and dark, day and night. So people's attitude can also be divided into 2 categories. Like, for instance, the proactive people and reactive people. And the environment can be divided into 2 categories, like the factors which you can control and the factors which you cannot control. So let's talk about this before we get into how you can make vision happen for yourself. When I say yourself, you make happen to yourself, you make happen to your family, you make happen to your team, you make happen to your organization. That's the process. There are forces like weather, inflation, politics, government norms, government regulation. The list can go on. No one can control this. While there are things which you can control, like yourself, about your attitude, about your hobby, about your education, about your skills, everything about you, your energy level, your attitude, and whatnot. Now, the two sets of managers, the proactive and the reactive managers, the reactive managers are always hyper. And they react to situations which they don't have control. Just for example, what is the point in my worrying about the inflation level in the world, or low interest level that the banks are giving at the moment, or weather conditions in the town where I live? I can do nothing about it. But the reactive managers always spend almost all time, their energy, they expend their energy only on thinking about those problems which they cannot control. With the result, they tend to neglect completely themselves. So those managers are a liability to the organization. The managers who spend more time in thinking, brooding, involving themselves in factors which has absolutely no control whatsoever of that they can do, they still spend time on it. But the people who are reactive to the situation always complain their failure to the external forces. Okay, now can you hear me better? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Is it better? Because somebody has mentioned they need to increase the volume.
No. I think his device volume needs to be increased, but it is okay. I can hear clearly.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So I was saying that the managers who are reactive to the scenarios which they cannot control, they waste their time and energy. With the result, they fail in their career. With the result, when they fail two other things along with them. They fail their family, they fail their organizations, no matter what kind of organization they work with. But proactive managers, they realize there is no point in going after something which they cannot control. So they spend time in understanding, knowing themselves. They spend the time and energy to understand themselves, what skills they need to get to the next step, what hobbies they need to pursue, what kind of organization they need to work with. They seem to understand naturally. So they remove all the impediments that come on their way for their growth and their organizational growth. So they tend to develop good teams within them. They tend to develop a good spirit and enthusiasm to work with the team, while reactive managers cannot work with the team. They complain everything to the situations. They never take ownership of their life. If something happens, they say inflation is too much. If something happens, this is too hot for me, too cold for me. The weather, the politics. So let's look at a situation like Apple computers, for example. Apple is one of the most valuable companies in the world. Now, I am saying that the most managers in Apple are proactive managers. They completely ignore the environment. They are not worried about import-export duty. They are not worried about the government regulation. They are not worried about the Chinese trade war versus American trade war. They are really not interested. Those managers who manage Apple are all the time concentrating on innovation, experimenting for the new product. They are worried about only how to make their customers happy. How do I bring a better product to my customer? More so, how do I make people irresistible and make them buy my product? They are not worried. Apple is the most pricey product in the world. iPhone 11 or 12 or something, which they just launched just less than 10 days ago. It's about 1 lakh from 10,000, something like that. So it's extremely pricey product, and they make people irresistible. And how do they do it? They are proactive managers. They are not worried about the market. They are worried about how to make their widgets most innovative, most competitive. So if you look at the peer groups of Apple, they're far behind. Despite the fact that many of the Apple phones and then other phones in the market, you can, if you're a techie guy, you can find the comparison between Apple and Android almost 1:1 matching. But nonetheless, Apple find their market simply because their managers, in my opinion, are always proactive. They are after providing service to the consumers, to the potential, rather than wasting time on factors which they cannot control. So the first sutra, which I call it as Vision Sutra, the managers need to have solid vision in order to make things happen. So there is, what is needed in this scenario is an attitudinal shift between proactiveness to reactiveness. I'm sorry, being from reactiveness to proactiveness. Unless the manager becomes proactive, and every individual, manager stands for every individual, he cannot deliver what he likes to deliver. He needs to have a vision. And that vision is possible only when then he has that kind of an attitudinal shift. Now before I quickly look into this, that I want to tell you that the management thoughts, in my opinion, has actually originated in India. And it has been existing from the days of Mahabharata. One of the most efficient managers that I could bring out with my little knowledge on the subject is Arjuna himself. Now, the moment the curtains of the Mahabharata war opens, both the cousins, Arjuna and Duryodhana, both approaches Lord Krishna for help. And Duryodhana preferred the Lord's army, Krishna's army, Krishna's marine, Krishna's whatever, all forces. But Arjuna decided to have the wisdom of Krishna on his side. That's the vision Arjuna brought to the table. So the Vision Sutra has been existing with us from time immemorial. And what he brought to the table was Krishna's wisdom. With it, he became a visionary. He has a clear vision. There's a quality versus quantity. And there is also a proactive behavior in Arjuna rather than a reactive behavior, which you found in Duryodhana. So the winning the war was the only idea, but the visionary had a clean idea. What is it that required to win the war? The wisdom of Krishna is much more important than the army of people. So the very first sutra, according to me, is the Vision Sutra. You have to be proactive to the scenario instead of being reactive. You have to be complete charge of yourself. The only way that one can be proactive instead of reactive is control your emotions. Oftentimes, we managers take decision not because we think it is correct, but because our emotion says go ahead with it. And that takes you to a huge pitfall in life. So we should be guided by value system. We should be guided by, rather than guided by the emotions. And now I also mentioned that the reactive people always complain their environment, no matter what happens to them. So no company can function if they have too many reactive managers. So we need to have some training program for managers. And that's the reason that I appeal in the beginning that, you know it, but I am only trying to put it in the right perspective, because these are the factors which are all within you. Now, from today onwards, if you're a young manager, that if you want to move forward, that you better have this attitudinal shift, and that will really pay you rich dividend. Now, I displayed this picture in the beginning of Bodhisattva. Now, the essence of any thought process is the clarity within the thought process. I mean, you can think a million things, but if you don't have the clarification of what you're thinking, you're not getting anywhere. So the essence of the thought process is the clarity itself. And that is why I put this picture. And the sutras comes, from the calm environment, thinking environment, instead of being reactive, instead of jumping into the scenario. Proactive people always watch before they take decision. Proactive people always look, evaluate all the options before making a decision. Reactive people are emotional. Reactive people quickly take a decision and they regret. And they try to reverse, they get into another problem. So the way that one needs to move from reactive to proactive, what gets along with it is a clean vision. That's the first sutra. If you get this first sutra, all of the sutra will fall in place automatically. The first sutra is the key thing. And then once you have this first sutra, all other sutras come in automatically. All right. The second sutra, I call it Focus Sutra. This actually follows from the earlier Vision Sutra. Only when you have clarity in your thought, you can focus. Proactive managers come to work, damn cool. They take meetings, cool. They take discussions, cool. Because they realize that this is not the end of the world. There are always positive side and there is negative side. And then I have the wisdom to understand what is positive, what is negative, what is white, what is black, what is dark, what is day. So the proactive people get towards the next level of understanding about how to move is the focus. As you see this in Yoga Sutra, there is the Surya Namaskar. Surya Namaskar is more than none of the yogas are physical exercises, although really it is been treated like an aerobics and physical exercises. But the major part of the yoga itself is spiritual and intellectual exercise. And this particular exercise, which is Surya Namaskar, is a highly concentrated focus of your highest level of energy. If you don't have a focus, you're a non-start. A manager who doesn't have a vision cannot focus. Only when he has a vision, he can focus. If he doesn't have a vision, he cannot focus. Therefore, his organization goes to dogs. His team goes to dogs. So, the Focus Sutra, which stems from the earlier Vision Sutra, is concentrating on what is it that you want to achieve. Managers need to understand three things: goals, roles, and norms. I don't want to use jargon just for the heck of it, but these have got huge meanings. Every manager should have a solid goal of what he's doing. Whether if he's a sales manager, he needs to understand what territories that he need to attack. If he's a production manager, he need to understand what is it that he need to produce for this quarter, next quarter, following quarter. Likewise, he need to have a clear goals, set of goals, and he need to have solid roles within his team, and he should have norms how to achieve these goals. And that is called focus. Now, the focus is possible only when you follow certain structured methodology. The goals, roles, and norms are easy to talk, easy to discuss, but they are not that easy to understand and move forward. Now, what happens in reality is, supposing that you want to get married, you visualize a scenario. What is it that you want to marry? Where is it you want to marry? Let's assume that you want to get married in Taj Mahal Hotel in Mumbai, Apollo Bandar. So there is a mental visualization of Taj Mahal Hotel, Apollo Bandar ballroom in your mind, and a whole series of process mentally that you reel within yourself. And then you put them in writing. Like building, like for example, you want to build a home to live. So you visualize mentally first that you want to have a 2,000 square feet home. It should have 2 floors, upper floor, down floor, or that kind of a thing. It should have 3 bedrooms. You should have 1 sitting room, study room, balcony. These are mental iterations that you do. Then you consult with your consultant. He puts it in blueprint, and then an action plan is taken. So focus is possible only when you visualize first. So that's why I said the visual sutra is the essence of the PANCHA Sutra. If you don't have a solid visual sutra, you cannot move on to the next steps. So once you have that vision very clearly, then you are able to focus. Then you can have a plan of action. The plan of action is iteration takes place in the mind first, then on the paper or computer, whatever it is. Then you have a blueprint. Then you can set a plan of action. That's what I said. Goals, roles, and norms. This has to be very clear. I'll take some of those questions which are coming in at the end. And, I will, hopefully, I'll be able to convey my message in the next 15 to 20 minutes. Am I right on time, Radhika?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We still have time. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'll be able to, put forward my thoughts, and then I'll take the questions as it come in. So I was talking about the mental visualization and then formal visualization, which is in terms of your blueprint and your, drafts, and then, boardroom stuff before you put into action. And if you look at the history of the successful people in the world, the successful managers in the world, managers have got more notes which have been done on the background than the real presentation. Not really, most managers, even if they make a PowerPoint presentation and so on and so forth, they make solid notes and they visualize everything solidly, and then they put them on the notes, and then they make their PowerPoint presentation, and then that makes much more easier to develop an action plan. So there has to be a solid mission in mind. The mission should have goals, and then he should figure it out. He should figure it out what are the roles which is required to achieve those goals, and then he should follow certain norms. And this is what I call it as structured approach to focus your end goal. If you don't have an end goal in mind, you can't get nowhere. You can't get anywhere. Anything that, if you want, you are visualizing a travel plan, you must know where is it you want to travel. So you need to know the end. What is it that you need? Where is it that you need to end first? Whether you want to go to Mexico or you want to go to Tahiti, where do you want to go? So the end is the most important thing in visualizing something. So if you have a clear understanding of what is it that you want to go to achieve, then you can have certain rules to get there. And remember, I said you should not be controlled by emotion. You should be controlled by the value system. The value is much beyond what you think. The value can be anything. There can be the norms which are within and without. That is why I said in the beginning that there are 2 sutras which are within you, which can be controlled. And there are 3 other sutras which I'm going to enlist are not just you, but beyond you. So that was Focus Sutra. The next sutra is Communication Sutra. The Bodhisattva is sitting there, but he's constantly communicating. I mean, he's communicating with some force which we know, that's beyond the topic of discussion that we have, but he is into constant communion. The developing strong communication skill is an absolutely essential quality which needs to be built by every manager to build up his own career. The communication can be two-way with himself and his subordinate, himself with his superiors, and communication can be in multiple layers, with 360-degree with his customers, with his vendors, with his peer group, with his mentors. So the communication is the most important sutra. You will have clarity of communication only when you are a proactive manager. Reactive managers blabber. Reactive managers misses words. Reactive managers think something and talk something different. Proactive managers who have got a focus in mind, who has got roles, goals, and norms set for themselves, they have very clarified thinking process. They talk in terms of 1, 2, 3, ABC. They bring sequential, logical thought process in their conversation. Normal time when we see a manager who doesn't have this kind of understanding, he talks with different connotations, narrative changes. So successful communication helps the manager better understanding of himself, the people whom he works with, and the situation that he needs to deal with. And what does it do? It helps him overcome the diversities. He is able to build trust among his people, his team, all the environment that he works with, and he gets trust and respect, and he can move forward with the organizational goal. Now, what happens? The communication is a two-edged sword. You get an opportunity to talk, you don't stop. But the most important thing in communication is give the other party to talk so that you can listen. What is it in his mind? What is it you want to say? So, in my opinion, a manager should, more than talking, should spend time in listening. If you listen, if there is people come to the manager because there's a problem to be solved. Reactive manager gives a solution without considering what the problem is. Proactive managers listen to them. So people like Albert Einstein says, understanding the problem itself is the 50% of the solution. So if you don't understand the problem because you have not listened, then you cannot find the solution. So normally people say, look, he doesn't understand me, or I've been telling him he's not listening to me. No, it's the other way around. He has been telling you are not listening. That's where the gap comes in. And you are reactive, and therefore you blame him. Remember, reactive people blame on everything other than themselves. They don't take control of their life. They don't take responsibility. They are always whining type. So the only way that you become an active listener is to understand what will happen if you have some complaint to tell that party. How will you tell the complaint? So what is it that you need from the other party? So if you understand that aspect of the communication chain, then you will become automatically a good listener. It cannot be taught. It has to be felt. It has to be, you have to have a genuine interest in understanding and seeking the other person's attitude, other person's point of view, attitude of openness, empathetic listening. All these are part of it. An organizational behavioral scientist would tell you so many things. As I said, as managers, all these things. I'm only putting this in the right perspectives and the narrative so that you can consider as well. So the Communication Sutra, there's a whole bunch of dynamics. You must first spend time to understand the guy, to listen to him, being genuinely interested in seeking the other person's point of view, attitude of openness, empathetic listening. And in every scenario, Albert Einstein says, a solution to the problem cannot be created the way the problem is created. If there is a problem, you have to analyze the problem. That's fine. You have to understand the problem. That's also fine. But the solution cannot be in the same way the problem is created. The solution has to be a third way. I mean, there's actually no Brahma Sutra in that thinking, but to think about it, we don't usually use it. We always think, okay, fine, he did it, all right, we will make restitution are all courts only can do. If somebody has offended you, you cannot offend him back because that doesn't take that offense that he has committed you, that wouldn't go away. So the problem cannot be solved in the same way. The solutions cannot be found in the same way the problem is created. That's what it is. Understanding, empathetic, and then look for so that's the third alternative come in. Find a way to the mutually beneficial one and not my way or highway. Most of the times in organization, that intergroup problems or within the group problems, all these things are because people are strong-headed. They take one view or other and they refuse to listen to the other party. So what's happening? Empathetic listening is missing. Openness is missing. You don't appreciate the other's point of view. So the Communication Sutra is the third essence of being solid manager, being proactive manager, being a manager who understands his role, the manager who understands the norms, and the manager who has got the solid goal towards his career objective. Now, the next to the sutra is Relational Sutra. I have put a yin-yang here. Now, I said in the beginning, if you recall, I said in the beginning, most of the sutras fall into two categories, one within you, one beyond you. Now, there are some sutras which can come within both this thing. So that's I call the yin-yang part of the sutra, the yin-yang that this Chinese, so if you understand this, the Durdarshan symbol, which is the Chinese philosophy, the both extremes, so on and so forth. So the Relational Sutra follows the Communication Sutra. So the first sutra is the vision. The second sutra is the focus. You visualize. You charge yourself to a particular method of handling things. Then you have a vision. Then you have a focus. Then in order to achieve the focus, you need to be communicative. 360 degrees with all kinds of people that come across. And now the Relational Sutra. The Relational Sutra is nothing but interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills are extremely essential to survive in this diverse and complicated world we are in. It's a process of, nowadays it cannot be face to face, it can be web to web as well. But essentially it is a face to face exchange of thought, ideas, feeling, emotions between the two parties or group of parties. And it can include both verbal and non-verbal. Now what happens is, if there is a group of people, a team we call it, if they have certain points of view to discuss, 90% of the time, there are strong emotions play the role. Hey, at the end of the day, proactive managers are also human beings. They have emotions as well. So emotions play. So now, when there's emotions play, organizational scientists, behavioral scientists say, the very famous win-win scenario, win-lose, lose-lose scenario. Okay, if I want to win, I want you to lose. So it is not one or the other. There's so much opportunities that we have in this world. So we need to figure it out how to think instead of having an extreme way that I win, you lose, or you win, I lose. Can we both win? So if there is a scenario, can we have an alternate scenario, a third scenario? So win-win is most ideal. You win, I win is absolutely most ideal. The Relational Sutra, which is an interpersonal skill-related sutra, that you have a third alternative possibility coming in, and therefore sometimes you need to have a situation in which the third alternative also coming in, and then you are not taking one option or the other, but you are taking the third option because both would be able to move forward. Again, this calls for a lot of emotional approach like empathy and sympathy, and then helpful attitude, and that's why these sutras are traced back to the people who are composed, calm environment in which they work. Now, we are moving to the most important part of the sutra called Balance Sutra. The Balance Sutra or the Synergy Sutra is the combination of the two or more agents or forces so that the combined effect is greater than the single unit. Now, this is actually stemming from the Relational Sutra. This is an extension of the Relational Sutra, in which the behavioral aspect of winning, but while not letting the other party lose, that's where the balance strikes in. The balance refers to the placement of the various elements that produce between, or the emotions produced between the group interactive elements in the group. It is a combination of one or more things. It's not just one. It is a combination of one or more things on the Balance Sutra. It is the most important sutra right after the first one, which is the visualizing. You visualize something, you focus towards that, and you communicate properly, and then you have got a relational or interpersonal skills developed for the same thing, and now you're balancing it out, everything. Now, the world is not just the way you and I like to be. The world is different. The world of business is different. The people that you come across is different. So you need to appreciate and understand the diversity, that inclusive factors, the gender dynamics, the sensitivity, all those things that happens in the world. And you need to have disagreement. As Mr. Narayanamurthy said in one of his talks, disagreement is fine, but it should also be disagreeable. You should allow him to disagree as well when you make a conversation, when you make an interaction. What a wonderful vision that he had when he said it. So disagreement is fine, it should also be disagreeable. So in the balance of the Synergy Sutra, the one is, few is better than one, is the essence of this sutra. Why do you work with the team? Well, you can do everything. You got your MBA, you got a PhD, whatever that you have, and you are an engineer, you understand this, you understand that. Why do you want the team? The team, the sum of the parts is always stronger. So you should allow the disagreement of the people to understand his perspective, and so that you can have a stronger solution to the problems, to solve the problem. And now finally, on the Balance Sutra or the Synergy, that we move to the new domains of knowledge, like data analytic, knowledge management, artificial intelligence or automation. This is the managing tomorrow. How do you see? You cannot find the solution in the existing environment. Remember, the problems need to be solved in a totally different environment, and you cannot think the way they have been created. You have to think new ways. So today's world, you need to figure it out. What are the new norms of finding solutions? With these thoughts and narratives, and these are the quick look at it, the personal vision, focus, communication, relationals, and balance and synergy. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to take few questions. Radhika, let me know.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Mostly, there's no questions as such right now on the chat box. Any questions in the chat box? Anyone who would like to ask anything, please post it in the chat box. And I would really appreciate, sir, that the presentation was very lucid.
Thank you so much.
Like it gave a kind of a sense of peace today.
Thank you so much. But
many people are appreciating this webinar. Any questions you would like to ask, sir? You can please post it in the chat box or in the Q&A box.
You can unmute them as well. I have no problem. Okay.
So
okay. I have one question come from Mr. Parmar.
Yeah.
He's asking, can you please explain Relational Sutra?
Yeah.
Okay. Parmar, Relational Sutra is an interpersonal skills between you and the team that you work with, the family that you have, the company you run. Now, the interpersonal communication is an absolutely essential to put forward your views to the people, to understand the views from them as well. The thoughts, ideas, emotions of every individual is different from that yours. Your way is not the right way all the time. That's the problem with some politicians. But a successful CEO keeps the door open all the time. He listens to his associates. He listens to his team. He listens to his man. He may not accept their suggestion. He doesn't mind disagreement from them. He likes to listen to them. So, in the Relational Sutra or Interpersonal Sutra, what happens is you listen to the other party, and then the other party's suggestions are accepted. You keep your openness. You keep yourself open. Are you with me? And that's the only way. And then now, if there is a problem, if there is a disagreement, and then he says white and you are saying black, and then so you will find the solution on the third one, neither white nor black. There is a shade of gray. But gray is closer to black. Gray is equally closer to white as well. So that is what the Relational Sutra does. Okay, now I have another interesting question. How do you keep the team spirit and present work environment? Keeping the team happy is not the objective of the team. A team should have a goal. A team, when I say a team, it can be an organization. And then organization is subdivided into a small team, small group of people. And let's say for our discussion's sake, your team is quality control. So your team's job is quality control. So the moment, see, the people would respect you only when you understand what is it that you are saying, what is it that you are doing. Proactive managers only know what he is doing, what he understands. So the spirit of the team can be kept if you're a team leader only when you are top in the line of understanding. They see you, respect comes to you automatically. You cannot demand respect. That's what is happening with the Trump. I don't want to get politics here. Thank you very much for that. Okay, any other person? Agreed, but not to retain team spirit. But how to retain? Okay, retaining team spirit. You see, the spirit of any team is a challenge. Now, for example, a team of sportsmen, let's say, for example, IPL team going to Dubai for a play. What is the challenge? The challenge is the trophy at the end of the day. The challenge is the couple of $1 million that they're going to get it in various formats, various endorsements. That's the end of the day. That's the challenge constantly changes. Now, what is it? What drives somebody in? Nobody can say. So only when you have a team spirit and then you share and care each other, each would open up. Otherwise, people just come to work for 9 to 5. They're just there. They just respect you because they need their salary at the 30th day. If the attitudinal shift takes place and you enjoy your members of your team, the team members in turn would open up themselves. And that's the only way you can keep the team spirit up all the time. The work from home is a very different scenario. Some of us who have been working with the software industry, I'm a financial man. I'm an investment banker by training and my profession. For the last 30 years, I've been, that kind of a person. Working from home is part of our norm as well. We don't find it difficult. So, but working from home is not an easy option. But this is a very peculiar pandemic situation. None of us have seen, none of us have known in this century and last century. And then the people who have known in the last century, none of us are alive to tell us what exactly they found. And the world has taken a huge change in the last 100 years. Therefore, it's a very difficult scenario. But I do hope and pray this is not too far. But a lot of things can be done, sir, for work from home, improve the work from home situation. Don't push people beyond a certain time. And then please have clarity of the roles that they need to do. And then make sure they have their privacy and they allow them to switch off their telephone after official office hours. And then ask them to do some basic yoga. I take yoga on the Zoom and it helps me a lot. Any other question? One last question I can take. Tell me.
Yeah. So there is there are 2-3 questions right now.
Tell me.
But I can just post it
Tell me.
Like that is compromise needed? Does compromise not dilute the focus?
Read it again. Where is that question? Let me read
it. It is in the Q&A box.
Okay.
Mr. Anand has asked it, is compromise needed? Doesn't compromise dilute the focus?
Sir, again, the definition of compromise is not in the political sense. If there is a dispute, the dispute has 2 sides. And then if you're the aggrieved party, you will always feel that your side is right. And if I'm a defending party, I always feel that my side is right. So my way or highway is not the solution. Now, I want to give you a very interesting example. If I would have been an author, and if I'm on a book launch, and then I expect that everybody who is present in that auditorium buy my book, come to me for my signature. I'll have an option to use my Mont Blanc pen as well. I'll give a lovely calligraphy of mine on first page. That's a lovely option. But what I will do in order to increase the sale, I will talk about another author. And then say, look, that author is a wonderful person. And then he did this, he did that, and all that I will say. And then what happens is, I am creating a winning scenario. I mean, I am not part of his cartel or anything. I genuinely like that piece of action that particular author has wrote. So that appreciation of that actually increases my sales. So the 10 people sitting in that audit, oh, wonderful guy. Bala is talking about a third author, and then he is really appreciative of the presentation in which that author has done. Let me see how this guy writes. So my sales goes up. So compromise is a factor which can multiply into many X's if you use it in a right way. And thinking compromise in a wrong way, probably that's the problem, sir. How do you get best out of the team? You give best to the team gives the best back.
Yeah. So there's one question regarding Communication Sutra.
Yes.
Whether scolding any person is right or not while in process of communication in any meeting.
You see, I would imagine this guy is a Netflix watcher. Almost every stills in the Netflix will have a scolding, abusive, and cursing dialogue. So in certain cultural scenario, those dialogues are fine. But in our cultural scenario, and particularly when I'm addressing to the Indian Wisdom of Management Institute, in our culture of scenario, I think you should restrain from using the words and the syntax which you would not appreciate if you hear it from outside, if you hear it from a third party. And again, Bodhisattva, on Buddha, when he went along with his assistants or team or sishyas with his begging bowl, and one place a lady, instead of giving him alms, shouted at him like anything. So one of his assistants got angry and then told Buddha, give me permission to kick this lady. Buddha said, just come with me, let us walk. So after a few minutes of walking, the guy asked Buddha, why did you not allow me to kick her? Why did you keep quiet? Buddha said, she had a lot of encomium. She threw a lot of bad words at me, but I didn't accept it. It all went back to her only. Thank you very much, guys. Have a wonderful day. The PANCHA SUTRA, if you can instill some of these sutras or refine your skills, that'll be nice. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Balakrishnan, sir, for sparing time for addressing the AMA members and others on this very enlightening subject. I hope all the participants, they enjoyed the session. Yeah, we'll be sending a feedback form also, Google feedback form link. I will request you to all please fill in for our internal quality improvement and our information. Thank you once again, everyone. Good night. Stay safe.
Thank you so much.
Bye, sir.
Bye.